Welcome to the Sounds of Chicago podcast, brought to you by the Chicago Music Guide. Hi, my name is Mark, and this show is dedicated to the vibrant local Chicago music scene. Chicago has a very storied history when it comes to music, and we're going to talk to a variety of local artists to capture the heart, mind, and soul of the thriving local Chicago music scene. Today, I'll be talking to two prolific songsmiths, full of pop sensibilities and hooks galore. From the bands The Luck of Eden Hall, the Thin Cherries, and a fantastic solo artist, Mark Lofgren. And singer-songwriter, big stir recording artist, and leader of the Phins, Dolph Chaney. Dolph and Mark here, and we're just talking about songwriting and live performance and just stories that come to mind.
Sure. Yeah, so, well, you kind of, before the cameras were rolling, or right as they were rolling, you were talking about rock and roll and rebellion, against your parents. I thought it was interesting because you came from, a family, more traditional family than mine. So how did that come out? Like, were they supportive, or is that?
Are they supportive today too?
Listen, my dad's gone, my mom's still living, and my big sister, and they're there liking my stuff on social, and they're sweet. That's nice. We don't vote the same. We don't, all of that stuff, and that is fine.
That's fine.
I'm happy to have them, but my favorite thing with my dad was when the Monkees were back on MTV and Nickelodeon, like late '80s.
Sure.
I was obsessed because it was so funny, and the songs were so good.
Oh yeah.
And I was just watching really intently one day, and Dad comes out of his study. He's like, "So, Dolph, how long have you liked the Beatles?" And I'm like, "Well, I've liked the Beatles a good bit, but this is not them. This is
the Marx Brothers."
Okay, kind of.
This is not them.
So it's just funny. They were, they bought my first guitar.
Okay.
They bought me lessons.
Can't be more supportive than that.
They kept me going through that. There's a good memory of me and my first, well, not my first teacher, one of my teachers doing a show in a deli, like him and all his students, right? And we did Dust in the Wind and Stairway to Heaven together. And there's my ma dutifully, at the table, smiling away. So fantastic. I can't, it would be super easy and cheap and unfair for me to bag on the fact that we're different and all of that. Like,
they were there for you every step of the way.
Precisely that. So I'm lucky that way.
Okay. Well, I want to talk to you guys about songwriting a little bit. And are there any lines from your songs? We'll go, each of you, that you say, oh, wow, genuinely feel that this is this is such a brilliant line that you want people to know about. For example, I've been digging into my past of songwriting from the 80s, and there's one line that's, "Welcome to your life, you're never too far from alone."
That's good.
And that I wrote that in the 80s, and I was like, wow, where did I draw that from? So I want more people to know about that. That can be T-shirt almost.
Yeah,
so,
nothing.
So what do you think, Mark?
Nothing really comes to mind. I feel like, in Not My Love, there's some lines that I think they all work together. Did you disappear? Not my love.
Right.
It's sort of kind of echoing that. Sort of. I always do like double negatives and sort of double entendres and things like that, and try to play with words. Are the things we need charmed enough? Like things that are. Is this enough for us, without coming out and saying, is this enough for us to make it? There's nothing wrong with saying it that way. It's just sort of not interesting to me.
Right.
To try to code it or to try to twist it around a little so it sort of resonates. Yeah.
So as a writing experiment, I tried to write a blues song, and it worked out pretty well. And in the second verse, I wrote, "Gonna buy me a square and sit on the corner tonight," and I kept asking my friends, do you guys use my friends who smoke? You call a cigarette a square? Do you go, is that a thing? And only one of my friends said, yeah, he does. So I think that's his
his
thing, and so I was okay. So I wrote it about my friend then too. So
somehow that landed with. That's so cool. Right. That's so cool.
Yeah, and again, just not calling it a cigarette or using a different. I mean, some people may know it, some people may not, but it's kind of steeped in history, and it's like of another era. I'm interested in that too, and time and
taking past slang and that's fun.
And I thought it was a Chicago slang word too, so I thought, blues, Chicago. Okay, I'm a Chicago guy, so that should work. So Dolph, how about you? Do you have any lines from songs? You've got a lot of songs. So.
And I'm a wordy writer. I don't always go lyrics.
That's why nobody ever covers Dylan songs, because they're too wordy.
You don't always lyric. Do you write?
I used to. All that study hall time I was talking about was definitely just no. I didn't have. They didn't let me bring an instrument. So for sure, for all that time, it was lyrics first. But frequently now, I'll get a piece, either a line or a riff, and it has to sit on its own, and then collating it.
Same, exactly the same. Yeah.
That's the process.
I think it's an evolution. Because I tried to write complete lyrics and then make it into a song.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fine, but I find myself not doing that at all anymore.
Right.
Yeah, only once in a while.
It's very often not using those words because it's like I can't make it fit in the story.
Right, right.
Or it doesn't work with the riff or with the change.
They don't line up.
You cram it in, you're like, well, that's
and then now it sounds, you can tell.
Right.
For a lyric I would cite, I think a song that we've brought back that isn't on an album but is a single that I released is called Be My Old Fart.
Okay.
And
again, your sense of humor comes through.
Again, it's like I thought of the idea and it just sort of tumbled out really quickly like that. But it's just the idea that we reduce so many love songs are so young.
Right.
And it mirrors the way a lot of people still get trapped in their relationships.
Okay.
So often we don't get past that image of the person when we met them.
Right.
And so I wanted to write, I don't know, a Grow Old With Me, but that was fun.
Or When I'm 64.
Or When I'm 64 that could rock a little bit even. And so there's some good ones on there. I mean, there's a ton of jokes, but I think the lines that I get to that always kind of feel less jokey are in the second chorus. And it goes to... dry all your tears on the sleeve of my heart.
Okay.
Don't let all your memories haunt you, because I only want you to be an adult.
Wow.
Don't put the result before the pill cart. And that's the wrong kind of diaper. Be my old fart. Nice. So that's that one. I'm happy made it to the live set. The Phins are doing that now, and we're having a good time with it.
I wish I could bring you guys to some of the open mic nights that I go to check out, and you guys could set up like a songwriter's booth.
Ooh,
and just
love that.
You watch somebody do their little set, and then come over and sit down with you, and you consult on them and give them punch up notes or something, which would be awesome.
Inevitably end up learning both ways in scenarios. That's really fun.
It's rewarding too. I used to teach, video and motion graphics at design colleges,
right?
That served kind of underprivileged. It'd be the first ones who got a college associates or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's rewarding. You learn stuff like, wow, I didn't think about, how you could use this.
Sure.
Songwriting could be the same.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well,
is.
I mean, that's the thing. I learned a long time ago. No matter who you see live, it could be, Taylor Swift at the Enormo Dome, or somebody in a corner playing an acoustic guitar. You should always, as a musician, learn something from that.
Yeah.
You learn what to do or what not to do.
Was that a Spinal Tap reference?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. With Duke fame. And
the Enormo Dome. Just as God made me, sir.
It's like you sold it out.
We have to go wait in the lobby.
And he can't get his name right.
We can't talk
Liam.
What a great movie.
Derail it.
No,
you had to call out the Spinal Tap.
Yeah, no, you got to. I mean, and they're coming back.
I know.
We'll
see how that goes.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, so is Beetlejuice. So what time are we living in?
Nothing's ever as new as nostalgia.
Right. Well, I just have been dipping my toe into a lot of nostalgia the past couple of weeks because a friend of mine, bass player, has a every year backyard barbecue party, and it's his music party too. And we decided to put our band back together from the mid '80s.
Fun.
Yeah, it was neat. But they were throwing demos at me of songs that I completely forgot. It was interesting, and it's very of its time, you know. And so that's where that reminded me of that line, "You're never too far from alone," came back again.
Sure.
We performed that one last night at the party. So
how'd it go over?
It went really well.
Don't bury the lead.
It went over really well. Well, because we mixed it up with, we're dragging everybody back. This is 1987. This is what we sounded like, and then we played "Beds Are Burning."
Good.
"Don't Change" by In Excess.
Oh, there you go.
And what was it? Oh, "Life During Wartime."
Oh, cool.
And then we closed with "Melt With You." Of course, because it's all, that's the greatest one-hit wonder that never charted, and everybody knows it.
That had one of those great little, I love that bass slide up. When I learned, when I was playing, I learned that. It's like,
so good.
Stole that for a few songs.
Yeah, they're back too. Modern English.
Are they?
Are they? Yeah.
Son of a gun. Or did they ever go away?
Well, there were some falling out, and then
Wait, I heard Oasis is getting back together now.
I did see that.
They buried the hatchet?
Yeah, supposedly.
They buried the budget, I think.
Well,
they're supposedly going to do Glastonbury and a few other and tour. I don't know about a record.
A dump truck full of cash came up to their house, and
Noel got divorced, I think, and it was a catalyst, is what somebody said.
Yeah, that's exactly how we got the Beatles anthology.
Yeah,
because George needed money. George needed the money.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, I will go and revisit the past and hang out with you guys.
Yeah. I highly doubt they'll make it to the U.S. together ever.
Yeah. If they get through a show.
Right. Yeah.
That's something else.
I did see them twice back when they started, and I'm kicking myself for not going to see them at Park West, but I saw them at I saw them at the Vic, and then I saw them at Aragon. And it was great. They were a great live band.
Just straight up.
And I remember when the single, for the first single from their second album was "Some Might Say." And when it was middle of summertime, sunny day, it's on the radio. I'm like, oh my God, this is done. This is going to be a huge album. Whatever is on it, it's going to be massive.
Yeah. I mean,
because that was definitely a car song,
for sure.
So you guys both play solo. What's your regimen for preparing for solo gigs? Asking, for a friend.
You do more than I do, I think.
I did for a long time. I didn't have a band for about a 25-year period.
Wow. Yeah.
In college, I had a band when I was still in Houston, and we, it was fine. It was good. We were pretty regular, and I sort of lost my nerve with it, and also didn't have a ton of patience for the interpersonal politics and just the unreliability of things. So I psyched myself out of it for a long time. I missed out a lot, honestly, on a lot of the Chicago stuff. I was here in 2001. Sure. I was going to a lot of shows, but I did not have a project with anybody else. I was just working alone and not playing out a ton. But it's... When I'm working on something that's solo, you especially want a set that's got enough variety. It's so hard to keep it from being samey.
Okay.
That becomes challenge number one. So how can I get enough rise and fall in the order of the sets, in the keys, bring enough instruments that can be something that varies.
Okay. Well, what other? Oh, you have that beautiful Gretsch. What else do you bring to a solo show?
So even with the Phins, like the other main electric guitar is a Telecaster with humbuckers in it, and so there's enough of that rock side of it. But yeah, I would typically bring an acoustic and an electric, and probably overdid it on my own with using the effects a little bit too much, but just to try to keep it from being three songs at the same tempo and people just zoning out. I figure if they're going to zone out, they're going to have to work for it a little bit more. I try to make it as hard as I can.
I mean, I'm asking because I do a lot of 3 sets at brew pubs.
Yeah,
and,
respect. I never really.
And I always sneak originals in because I got to, but you got to play some hot hits. But I bought a looper pedal. I'm not good with it, so I pre-record my loops.
Right on.
And because I don't want to. Oh man, it's out of. So I just asking how to break up that monotony of just being a guy in a corner playing a guitar or strumming.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's not easy to do.
And then
it's easier to have a band than you can blame other people.
Yep.
Well, it just takes, you can, but it takes pressure off. I mean, especially
That's
now.
what it really is.
Because the bands I had were mostly one guitar situations, usually trios.
Power trio. Nice.
And
that's what I was always in before Thin Cherries.
Yeah, and it's so different, right? Because you have a foil, I find I can actually perform a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I did notice that your last set. That's why I said I think it was the best set I've ever seen.
Thank you. It was
just engaging and sort of, just.
Where was this?
That was at Montrose.
That was at Montrose. That was IPO, and
it worked.
And that was one of the. Thank you so much. Those guys are great. That was the second show with the latest lineup, the current lineup of the Phins. The Phins started in 22. We've had, as these things go, we've had complete turnover at every position, but
back to Spinal Tap.
But I am very happy.
Drummers,
and good guys, everybody, all for different reasons. But probably because I'm such a tyrant and a taskmaster.
Oh, you seem very difficult.
I'm the worst.
Harsh taskmaster.
I'm the worst. I can't stand myself. But the current group has been together since about March, I guess, and they're very, very good. The other guitarist is Dave Leneff, who has been in a lot of projects in the area and is himself a songwriter. Although this project is just my stuff, but very capable, a much smoother player than me, has experience that I don't have, and is kind of the band leader in that way of helping conduct and direct traffic, which is just a huge luxury and a real game changer for me. My bass player's name is Bronco. That's it. And he's terrific, very melodic guy, and he's the clown too. Like, he's very exuberant personality and cracking jokes, and takes a lot of that effort off of me, which again I'm very, very grateful for.
Okay, so let me ask you, how did you find these players?
So it's
Craigslist or
well, there is a website for those of you who need to find a band. There's
this is called one of our tips,
bandmix.com.
Okay.
I haven't heard of that.
It's a good one and not too expensive for my wife calls it the musician dating service, and it kind of is.
$12 a month, I think.
There's a couple of tiers.
Yeah.
And so the original lineup of the Phins had a mix of guys from that and some friends of mine, some people I knew locally. And then the current group, Dave found me on there. Pat, the drummer, Pat Rita.
Right.
I think we've found each other's thing on there relatively at the same time, and I forget who contacted who first.
All right. So mostly through Bandmix.
Mostly, and Bronco was playing in a cover band with the Phins' original drummer, Bill Skafish.
Okay.
And so we had a vacancy, and Bill brought Bronco to practice, and it was clearly
excellent,
really working well, and terrific guys. So I'm well pleased. Like I feel like we're 6 months in. No, not even, and it's just now starting to gel. We've had a good month this month in August where we've had shows 3 consecutive weeks leading up to this one, and so it's a really good time for us. We were just at the Out of Space, speaking of, on August 23rd, and had a really, really fun night. And again, as you were saying before, what a great room. Right. What a supportive room.
And this is also the lineup that's going to be playing at the Northman on the 30th.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So that's, we're very excited to be able to do that.
Outstanding. And so, Mark, how do you prepare for a show?
I don't. No, I'm just kidding. No, for a solo show, I sort of similar, but I have just been doing acoustic.
Right.
But I will bring. So I have a Fender acoustic electric.
Okay.
Like this.
Yeah. The new,
which is awesome. So I will kind of electric it up for a few to make variety.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'll try to throw one unexpected cover in. The times I've played is Black Moon Book. I like to do songs that are sort of like you would never think is acoustic. Like I did. That's when I reached for my revolver.
Okay.
Mission of Burma. So I did something that's like not. I'll figure it out and like how can I make this work? So that's like things that are like I love that I'm like I like rather than covers I like versions or things like when I think it was Mark Kozolek, is that his name?
Yeah.
When he did that cover of Modest Mouse songs, Twin Cities. I think he
Tiny
did
Cities Made of Ashes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved that. I think it's brilliant. It's like almost not even the song.
Yeah.
It's like so far away, it's a song, but he made it his own so much. So I kind of try to do that if I'm going to do a cover. Yeah, that, and we just have never played covers in Eden Hall. We've done a few here and there.
A fun one here and there. Just
but we did some now for Fruits de Mir, like an English label.
Okay.
We did Lucifer Sam, actually.
Oh, nice.
Cover of that. And
Great tune.
It's really cool. It's fun. So we'll do that kind of stuff in that band. But as far as Thin Cherries, I don't know. We have enough trouble learning our own songs.
Yeah. You guys have such a good vibe. I really, the Thin Cherries, especially when you can see the 6-person full edition
extravaganza.
It's so
so lush.
It's a big dysfunctional family. That's why we don't do 6. It's hard to wrangle.
Yeah,
you can attest.
I've never had a band that large.
Don't recommend it.
5 pieces. We the one time that the 5-piece lineup was together, the Phins, we were on Phyllis's musical end stage.
Oh my God, that's hard.
Before they revamped the PA.
Yeah, because now you can kind of do it there.
Well, but
I mean, even the Montrose stage is kind of
we couldn't do 5.
Make it work.
Yeah.
I don't know, like Montrose,
people on the floor.
Drummer on the floor.
Yeah,
which is good.
A lot of that.
Well, we had what did we have at Montrose? Keyboards on the floor.
You had
keyboards and Sophie singing.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we're both.
You just
on the
can't
floor.
fit it. So we always were like, we probably should try to get a bigger show, but it's just. It's hard.
So cozy there too.
And it's just hard getting. You'll get a show. We could possibly play this bigger show, and then I'm out of town.
Yeah.
They have kids. Steve's got a kid going to college. Right. We can't rehearse enough. Even this one for Out of Space, we have to have a Google calendar to figure out what days we can rehearse.
Sure, we do.
Like, can we do this date? No, Darren can't make it. Well, practice the parts and we'll get together. Yeah. We'll just assume you're going to learn them and we'll get together the next week.
Oh, life.
So you got to. So we put together a set list first for Thin Cherries. Like, it's usually up to me. I feel like I'm the dad in the thing because I left it to Steve for a while, and God bless Steve, he's awesome. But organization is not his forte.
Yeah, you got to know who in your group can take care of which pieces.
And that's like being a boss of a business and knowing that this guy's skill set can do this. So
he's like a super nice, almost too nice, nicest guy in the world. Yeah, sweetheart, but. Wrangling a band, I'll eventually, I don't want to do it, but I'll finally be like, okay, these are the songs. I just wrote out a set list.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing. Everybody's like, great, this looks good.
Yeah.
Because I'm open to, like, if you want to switch anything, just let me know. But this is what I'm practicing.
Yeah. So. Well, I also find like a lot of players, maybe a little lazy. And say, you put a set list together. Right. Great. Yeah. That's perfect. I would have picked all those songs. Perfect.
Well done.
Well, we all get along great. It's not like, it's never it's just always a pressure to get enough time. Yeah. For us, because we're not we don't play as many shows.
Sure.
We haven't been able to get together and record the third album, so I feel like we're always playing catch up.
Yeah.
A little bit to it's like, hurry up, let's figure out the set. Okay. It comes together and it's great, but then you don't get together. We don't have 3 shows because we just haven't had time. We'll do a couple in a month, and it's like, okay, that's great. Let's keep it going, and then I'm going to Europe, or somebody's going somewhere, or whatever.
I'll be out of touch for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's also, though, I think maybe you wouldn't agree, but as a fan, my experience of the Thin Cherries is that the looseness kind of works. Because it breathes. There's enough different things going on, and the songwriting allows for that. So I never probably on stage it feels one way, but it always feels like it works with how you all are, and somebody is always kind of surging forward, and so it's a good thing. I don't think that has played as well in the kind of music that we make, because it is kind of tightly wound. It's kind of structured,
right?
And so a variation feels like a mistake, and so it's a different kind of challenge. It does mean that it is kind of easy to get parts and independently, so that's been a plus. But
sure, happy accident.
But things that we have to pick our moments for improvisation, because it's very easy for it to feel just like a goof. Like, no, we really didn't hit that entrance together. It's not because it was creative. So
to touch on your point, one of the songs that I cover that seems to go over very well, even in some of the far suburban bars I play, is I started doing You Spin Me Around Like a Record as a solo acoustic show. Solo acoustic player.
That's great. I got to hear that.
That goes with my atypical, idea of like, I would never think to do that song. I'm sure it's awesome.
And it took me a while to make sure I had the because there's a lot of strum and breath going on at the same time.
Right,
like,
totally
out of breath.
Visualize how
that's I've got to. You've got to send a link to that, because that's outstanding.
What a great idea! Going to be my next thing I'll throw up to YouTube.
Man.
So I got to ask you guys now, who's your booking agent? Who books you?
I don't have one.
Okay, so it's you.
Steve has been doing a little more of the booking than me. He's good at that. Like our first show ever, I think, was a Hideout. So we played some of the classic places, but to maintain that,
right,
we haven't been able to, do as many shows. So we can't commit to it. It's like, honestly, this show we had to commit to it and just stay on people. So it doesn't make sense. We've talked about it. Doing short tours and half arranged it, and then like somebody cannot do it. Steve and I have done solo, talk about preparing for solo shows. We've done this 2-piece, which is fun, 2 acoustic, an electric and an acoustic. I'd be open to that, but even it's more fun with a band, right? I mean, for me,
it's so different.
Well, I find playing also with a band, I have to play differently.
Yes,
because there's you are the drummer, the guitar player, the bass player, all that when you're playing as a solo player.
100%.
But then as a drummer, you say, I can't do that because I'm bleeding over other things. I just got to match the snare drum, and that's it.
I think the challenge of booking shows in Chicago and everywhere, it's not like pay to play, but you have to deal with booking agents and people who book at places. Like we used to be able to get shows at Subterranean, Beat Kitchen. And then they'll get a booking agent who'll take a cut, and you're paying for the sound person and the doorman and all, and it almost
like saying,
makes me not want to play.
You can't even tip the bartender at that point.
I'm like, what's the I don't really. It's not that it's important, but it's not that important to me. To me, it's more about writing music at this point.
And
I want to play out occasionally. But I don't know if you had better experiences.
I wouldn't
play more shows. So.
We're at a. I went so long with no shows, and so I'm learning this still. I'm still making my first contacts with a lot of people. So, I have been very fortunate to be able to have friends who will have me on to open, to have a couple of places that are very supportive that'll have me back after the first. I mean, Montrose we talk about them a lot, but they've been just terrific to both of us and our projects.
And you need that home base, really.
Sure,
and such an expansive city,
and somebody who's going to champion you a little bit. Because it
and ask you to play,
and
which is like nice,
and it helps you from getting discouraged.
So, but I am doing that on my own. Like I have people help me with just proofreading and like I don't know, I've just had to write about myself. Do I sound like a jerk? Am I saying enough of the things that people will actually care about? Is anything a lie?
And Let's hope.
I probably need a few, but are they the right lies?
Well,
am I going to have a cease and desist or a bait and switch clause about anything?
I didn't know you were born in a basement in Czechoslovakia.
Such a great story.
The Cheap Trick story. This band has no past, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's I I have no tips. I'm trying to get tips from everybody else about what to do.
Okay. I wish I could help you. We're muddling.
We're all just figuring it out. But I think the places that maybe it's self-selecting, the places that we should be at are the places that understand that side of the struggle themselves a little bit. Sure. But I'm just grateful for the opportunities to come back and hoping to build a little bit more. We got to play the first of the 3 shows in August was at Heroes West Lamont. Okay. Which is a very big stage. Yeah. And again, that's because of the band Go Time, Scott Nikolsky and Mark Marchetti and those guys, terrific guys, and a really constantly working band. And they've been lovely to me, and so they invited me to join them, and that's the best. So I'm grateful, and I have gotten to pay that forward back, and that's the best part of it, and I think it helps a venue too that you can say, I can put together a whole night for you.
I think that's a good point too.
Right. Again, so people don't have to. Somebody's going to do the work for me. I can focus on something else.
I know these guys. I know they'll show up on time.
Right.
I know
they bring their own crowd,
and they bring enough of their own crowd.
They'll bring some drinkers.
We'll get along.
They have disposable income a little.
And it's key. We're willing to share enough gear to make it, easy transitions. If you can do a little of the work for the venue, that I have found that helps at least sometimes. Sure. Yeah. It should. I mean, it's logical that it should.
Right.
But I still don't have, it's not that I have a huge, I can't say that I draw 200 to fill somewhere, hopefully sometime.
You don't want to lie about it.
Exactly.
We got offered shows at bigger places, and they're like, can you guarantee 150? I'm like,
no.
I mean, ideally, I think we can bring 50. We might be able to bring 150 on a good night.
Sure. Right.
But even with promotion and a publicist, it's hard. It's a fraction. There's so many options of things to do.
Oh, and that is always the thing too. You get a good night, right? You get a Friday or a Saturday. Right. How many of your friends are also playing?
Yeah, or you'll get a lot of responses, but a lot of them are maybes.
Well, which
is what I do. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah, everybody's got the same thing happens to me. You get tired, or something comes up.
Life happens, and that's part of the thing. So
I feel like when you were younger, I was much more committed to going out every night or almost every night because you don't have obligations, and you might not have a lot of money, but the nights were cheaper. Like Metro used to have like a $5 night, it was for local artists on Wednesday when I first moved here. Now it feels like there's more competition for shows, and it's hard to get on unless you know somebody, it's hard to get on a bill, at Metro or somewhere. If you do get on a bill, which we haven't, but with Eden Hall, we opened for Lemonheads and some other bigger bands, it was what we were doing.
Sure.
We didn't have families. We were in our 20s. And
there was that the commitment of...
We were putting up flyers. We could still put up flyers on poles before they'd arrest you. I remember running from a cop once when they started to enforce it because we were putting them up and I know we can outrun this guy. Yeah. Let's still put it up and then we'll run.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, officer of the...
whomever you were.
Maybe the officer came to the show, though. Yeah. Well, this is a pretty good deal. There's 3 bands on this bill. Maybe I'll...
For $5,
Those guys are fast. Those guys are fast, too.
They got great legs.
They must be a good band. They're in shape. Can you imagine the energy on stage?
It's going to be great on stage.
Yeah, well, I found that when you're
like
inviting...
Jim Morrison, then they all show up with like handcuffs, oh no.
But that's a great show, though.
Exactly. That's publicity.
Great way to end a show, yeah. Being carted off.
Convicted, never.
Yeah. Well, I've found when you are inviting people, for me, it's always been like the 10% rule of if you invite 100 people, 10 are going to show.
That's about right.
Yeah, and you're grateful for them.
Absolutely, each and every one.
I never complain. Yeah,
no,
at this point, it used to be. Again, we're older musicians, still serious about our art, especially songwriting,
and still creative too.
To me, I'm even more vested in that than I ever was. Yeah, because you're not constantly trying to make it, quote unquote. I mean, it would be great to get more exposure, which I'm always trying for. But I am grateful for support from local musicians and fans.
That's the currency of the whole thing.
When a friend shows up to a show and unexpectedly,
seen, right? Like, there's people who show up that
it's so great,
just out of nowhere that you haven't seen, that you forgot. Like, hey, I saw your name, and and
it was a chance that I could take, and I was so happy to get over, and it's the best. That's the big win these days. I mean, there's no music business unless there's it's the 1% and 99%.
Yeah,
I think as far as building the scene, it's building within communities. It's not like there's not like a, that 90s era label. There's not label signing anyone really.
No.
I mean, it's fractured. There's smaller and smaller labels. It's grassroots. It's like scenes within scenes. It's the younger bands like.
Or it's your own label that you build for yourself and release your own stuff.
I think which I love it in a way.
Well, it's good for the art.
Right, you can record now. That's the advantage to... The disadvantage is you're not making a lot of money, and it's harder to build an audience, and there's more bands. The advantage is you can record now. There used to be more gatekeepers.
Right.
You can make stuff sound good.
Absolutely.
With like
you can come away with home gear. You absolutely
with less money. Yeah. Like I remember recording at CRC, for some of our Luck of Eden Hall demos. And spending way too much on the first one with a famous producer when we were getting getting in the reader and other stuff.
Yeah.
And then the bill came, we're like, what? How are we going to pay this? We had to
Well, that was the idea is that back in the day, record companies were just banks. They were loaning money to bands.
Yeah. Right.
And that's pretty much it.
You had to pay it all back. Right. Yeah, which the secret they didn't tell you about with advances.
Oh, man.
We'll pay for this recording. But we really won't.
Right.
With your money.
And now we're going to take... Right.
That's a song. Yeah. We'll pay for this recording with your money.
With your money. Yeah. The old R.I.P. Steve Albini. The Trouble with Music. That great essay. The...
diatribe in a good way.
Yeah, imagine that you are at one end of a trough.
Right.
And for the sensitive listeners, I'll just let you Google the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Necessary to say. I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We're going to slowly wrap up. One question that I have, and I ask everybody, a musical tip. Or a tip about performing or songwriting or prepping. One person we had here recently said that she's very active on stage. So when she rehearses on an exercise bike.
Oh, that's fun.
And I was like, wow, I never even thought about that.
That's a good way to keep in shape.
Right.
It's great for breath control.
Right. And also keep that energy level.
Very smart.
And it could be any tip about anything that you'd want to share with us. So, Mark, do you want to go first?
I don't know. Songwriting wise, don't be afraid to experiment and to try new things. Yeah. Don't get boxed in by trying to make this song fit in a certain way. Even if it started one way, follow the muse and just if you hear something on it that doesn't work, but you were kind of like, I really wanted to keep this in, take it out, see what happens.
Yeah.
Take things out, plug other things in. Don't be afraid to write, not just from the heart, but just let yourself go. Don't try to force it. Yeah. I get into ruts. Everybody gets into ruts. Yeah. I'll write a bunch of songs or listen back, and it's just bad. And give it a rest too.
Okay.
I'll give it a few weeks or a month.
Yeah.
And then I'll pick the guitar up again. Time is, don't beat a dead horse.
There was one question I want to get to actually before we wrap up, though, is how do you guys deal with writer's cramp?
Yeah, I just started that, and then I'll let you finish it. I let it go now.
Okay,
I don't
just
force
let it go.
I tried to. For a while, I was trying to be a novel writer, and I had an agent for a little while, trying to finish a book, and that was such a painstaking process, and I couldn't let it go. I had to keep, and if I had just stepped away, because it really soured me on the whole, and it made me super depressed, and I got in a worse shape than I was when I started it. I never wanted music to become that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just don't be afraid to just step away. Do something else. I play stupid old man sports. I still play baseball on old man teams. Do something else. Walk the dog.
One of the things I would do is I would take a shower.
Yeah, that's even
because it just
really go on the back deck. Just sit there and look at the trees. Or doing something. I don't know.
Doing something that's a mindless activity that will wipe my slate clean. Perfect. And then sit back. And I'd usually think of a line or two after that.
And you can come back to a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you don't have to finish it. Like you read stories about great artists who just hammered it home and had to finish in 2 weeks. And I was up for 48 hours. It works for some people. It doesn't work for me. Like don't be afraid to come back to it. You might be surprised how good it is or how bad it is. Like, why did I spend all that time on this song?
It's so true. And I think when I gave myself permission to do that was when I found out Elvis Costello does that.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know.
And that
I'm vindicated.
Exactly. Nice. Exactly right. Like the thing specifically about pieces from old notebooks and lines from old songs. Once I read that, I was well, then it absolutely must be okay to do. He's the man.
Yeah.
Very similar kinds of advice. Like you want to give yourself room for the unconscious mind to take over. You need the mechanics in order to be good at what you do. You need the repetition in order to have muscle memory, mental muscle memory. You have to build pathways. All of that craft stuff is really important. Mm-hmm. And then you have to let that be automatic and just zone a little bit or change one thing and something if it's samey. Anything. You can say you've got a chord progression you've done 1,000,000 times. Change one of the chords. Just make it be something else that is nonlinear, and then do the work to figure out how you can get there and make it not sound stupid. And you won't be able to the first 5-10 times, but eventually it becomes a way.
It becomes a habit.
It becomes a way to break it out. Make it gamify things.
Yeah,
it's
make it fun.
Make it fun for yourself. Give yourself a reward at the end. But very much in keeping with what Mark and Mark have both brought up here. Enough variation to just keep it fun. Like if this becomes work, that's a bad time.
Right. They call it playing music, not working music.
And I felt like that's, with...
It's cliched, but,
It's the facts of it.
When we talked about Luck of Eden Hall, that it became not fun. It's like we were trying to make it, more so with the manager, and we got to fly a label in, and then the show would not go good, or they'd be like, you guys got to do this. Should you get a lead singer? It becomes like a... And I just became disillusioned, stopped writing songs. I was just I don't even want to write songs anymore.
And you don't want to end up like the Turtles. Right, if you know that story. Just
rediscovering the love of it, and then connecting with Steve and just, hey, let's see if we can write songs together, having a willing partner. And we approached it like, it might not work. I don't know. You write different songs than I do. Maybe it won't work. And then it worked.
It absolutely works.
Who knows? Don't be afraid to play with other people that you wouldn't normally play with either. Collaborate.
You don't have to be a hero. You don't have to do it. Like you were saying earlier, you do not have to do everything yourself in order. You're not winning anything that way.
Right. Find people who can fill the holes in what you can't do.
We're so lucky in Chicago and surrounding that there's thousands of us who can do the pieces that we can't do. Find them. They usually, even if they're a mess, they want to have fun playing music and take the ride.
And even if you record on your own, don't master it on your... Get somebody...
Get another set of years on it.
I made the mistake of trying to do that on one of the... I think the first solo thing I did, and I just blew it all up and went...
Yeah.
Because you can't...
It'll be a bad product, and you'll hate the record because you listen to it too many times, even if you actually made a good one.
And they'll catch stuff. They'll be like, well, Mike Hagler's great at that. He'll listen. He's like, I don't know, that guitar, I don't know. But he won't, say you should take it out. Maybe revisit that. Yeah, he'll give you a little hint. Vocals are kind of buried. Where's the bass on this song? Yeah. Did you record bass? He'll say things like that. I'm like, wow. Then I'll listen to the mix. Oh,
there's no big.
It really isn't there. Yeah,
yeah.
You need
because there's blind spots.
Right, sure.
I hear stuff a million times. Like I never realized the keyboard was that loud till I heard him master it. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, we really
Jesus.
And it's just because they did the EQ in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
And suddenly
or sometimes he'll master it and he'll send it back and not say anything. Okay, here's what I have, and then I'll hear it. I'm like, oh my god. All right, let me give you another mix.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to say anything because we work together. I'm like, oh no, I hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least now I hear it.
Well, and one of the things I found with recording is you want to try and have the fewest amount of cringe moments in it, because you'll be listening. Oh, okay, here's this verse, and it's going. This is coming. It's coming. It's
anything.
There's always going to be some, right?
Yes.
You ever listen to any of your albums or songs, and there's not one little thing?
Never.
Ne'er-do-Wells is pretty close. I love it all, but I bet I could listen to it and go like, I do redo that backing vocal if I.
The last thing that I did, I hated the way I hit an R in one of the songs.
It can be a little thing.
And it was, because then every time that line comes up, I look at the way I sang that R, and it was like, we were going through every scratch track and everything and we found one, we flew it in, and it's like, okay, it's still not great, but it's not like every time I hear it, I'm going to go like that,
I'll leave it at this. This is one of the funny, and I still hear it, but when we recorded the second Thin Cherries on Moose Island, I had, because of various stupid sports maladies, I had to have one tooth that died. I had like a root canal, and then I got elbowed again in basketball, and it was loose, so they had to take it off, and I got a crown and other things put in, and an implant. But it takes forever. They don't tell you that. It takes like a year. They took it, so you wear like a retainer thing, so it's, when I'm singing one of the songs, there's like a whistle in one of the parts.
Oh, man.
And I was like, Mike, can't you get rid of that? But I love the way and I'm like, forget it. But I can still, if I listen to it, I can hear it, so it comes up.
Okay.
It did stop me from swearing, because when I was playing, because I go, and the thing would fly out. And I got really good at catching it. I caught it.
Cat-like reflexes,
so
catching that thing.
And it was hard to sing. Like I had to relearn how to sing live.
Sure.
And then when I got the other two teeth, I'm like, finally, it's like normal again. But it was like a year, and we were playing shows.
Wow.
So it was, I don't know if it sounded the same, but it was close. But it took a lot of practice. So prepping for that, I'd have to learn how to kind of sing with the stupid thing in the mouth. Because going out there with no teeth, it changes. I didn't care what it looked like.
Right.
Yeah,
but it changes.
I got in the bar fight. I'm badass.
Well, it changes how you shape the sound.
Right, exactly. So I learned how to do it, but now I'm glad I don't have to do it again. So.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my final word. Go in the song. I dare you.
All right. I'll be listening.
At the final mix stage of this is. Nick sent me a mix or a pre-master. He was going to have it done, and the S sounds. My diction is pretty forward, and so for whatever reason the S sounds were just screaming, and he couldn't get them down, and he went and, God bless the dude, he went and did manual. Imagine how many S's are on a 48-minute album.
Oh yeah,
he did all of these little tweaks to each. De-essing your album. De-essing it manually.
Yeah, because the de-esser doesn't always work.
No.
Well, what we discovered was that in my vocal chain, we had a de-esser to use.
Okay.
And I tried using it, and it would have gotten us about 90% of those handled out.
Okay. Is that like one of those mic mechanic pedals? Or,
yeah. He tells me that he is glad for the experience, but I'm not
want
sure.
To do that again.
That's torture.
I can't believe he had to go. I wish he had not had to go through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So kids, use the de-esser.
Use the de-esser. Learn to get through it, and there's always something on a record, but.
Okay, I got a couple of wrap-up questions. We're going to one by one. Your musical Mount Rushmore. We'll start with Mark first.
Oh, who is it? Or what?
4 people on your musical Mount Rushmore.
Oh, Bowie.
Bowie, okay.
I mean, Bowie for sure.
Yeah, Bowie for sure.
I think for some reason, Jimmy Page.
Okay. Well, we're going to go one by one. So we'll just David Bowie because...
Bowie, songwriting, just innovation hits the heart. Yeah. Just Scary Monsters when I bought it when I was very young. Yeah. Just as was a transcendent experience.
The America's Top 40 or the Casey Kasem show that he used to have on Saturday mornings was running the Ashes to Ashes video. And that was like 1980, and I was like, what is this?
That keyboard. God, that's haunting.
I did a Bowie tribute night for a charity at a place called The Studio out in Lockport. Yep. And I put a band together called Campfire Bowie, and we did it all acoustic.
Nice.
And I had a guy on djembe, an electric guitar player, bass player, and me. And we did Scary Monsters, and we did the keyboards as vocals.
Love it.
Wow.
That's smart.
Yeah, so I'm with you on the Bowie one. Okay. All right, Dolph, how about you? What's your first one?
Well, I'll get the one out of the way I've talked about the most already, and that's Andy Partridge from XTC. It's obvious. Just the cleverest, underrated, and I wish that he was still making more new music. He occasionally, there was a project last year called The Three Clubmen, which he co-wrote stuff on, but he's the first. Yeah.
All right. You said Jimmy Page.
The second one, I'm going to shift it. I'm going to say The Who, because that seeing The Kids Are All Right when I went to a movie.
You read my mind.
I went to a with my best friend, and it was like The Kids Are All Right because my parents let me go out when I was a teenager, and it was old by then, but it was making the rounds.
Sure.
And when I saw that and the smashing the guitar, I'm like, I want to be in a band. This is what I want to do. Yeah. It's funny because Steve, songwriting partner, has a lot more Who influences in the way he plays, but just that experience of watching that, I came home like I got him to buy every music magazine with the Who.
It was when I was always feeling down about my art or just playing music in general. I'd watch that movie and be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this again.
It amps you up.
Yeah, there's so much energy in that.
So funny.
Yes,
it is funny. It's fun.
And there's so many bold pronouncements about the importance of it, and that's right, it is power and volume. It's like,
and then he has an interview segment where he shoots it all down too.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, great one. All
right, so Dolph, how about your number two?
The Who's such a good one. I think I would have to call out Frank Zappa.
Okay. Wow.
Not anything that that you'll ever see in my music,
right?
But it's so important as just the amount of dedication to the work, the willingness to
craftsmanship, and
to use absolutely every bit of his own intelligence and the skills of his band,
right.
Constantly challenging himself. And again, horrendously funny.
That's what I was going to say.
That's where you see in your music then is the humor element.
I'm always down for. I always am attracted to the people who are brave enough to say the thing that I'm thinking, and so. Like Zappa or roast comedy or, things I would never do because I would not want to hurt somebody's feelings. But I'd love to see it happen. The really cruel stuff. Monty Python, the really cruel stuff. And so Frank's there.
Okay.
I'm going to lump two together just because I find them related. Nick Drake and Elliott Smith.
Okay.
Very good.
Both those just hit me. And also... especially with Elliott Smith, Nick Drake had such a tragic short, career, but just transcendent and not like anything else. Elliott Smith, because if you listen back, he had Heat Miser, which is kind of a ragtag. It went all the way from that to just a guitar acoustic, so I can relate to all that. And just the songwriting and chords I would never think of with Elliott Smith and waltz tempos and things that I wouldn't have tried. Some of the Eden Hall stuff I wrote for that. had sort of those tempo, like, because it's just like I wouldn't have thought to, like 3/4, and that got me thinking
different tempos and changing up things.
I still don't often write in that, but
Sure.
if I get stuck, I'll try different things, and always think like, don't be afraid to go up on the neck and try some weird chord, like you said.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Try an inversion somewhere.
Chord. I've written a couple that I'm like, I would never play that. I'm like, God, that works.
Yeah. But it will trick your ear to do the next thing.
Right, and then it changes the whole song. One chord, like you said, can change the whole song. It's like, wow, that is not what I expected.
I had a chord book, 150, chords and inversions. Flip it over. Oh, this is a different way to play E minor. What is that? E sharp or so. So it was like something that I never would play. And I wrote a whole song around that, just that chord. I was like, wow, that sounds neat. Can I go from there? Well, if I go up a little bit, and wrote a whole tune around that.
Yeah, it is a piece of magic.
All right. Dolph, who's your next one?
I have to say Bob Mould.
Oh, nice.
Just saw him at the Skokie. Were you there?
Was a great night.
I've seen Sugar a couple of times.
That's what made me think of you.
Yeah. Oh,
he did electric guitar and all just him with effects.
Yeah, saw him at Metro a few times solo like that.
Dude. I saw him. Well, the first time I saw him, I saw 2 Sugar shows.
Okay.
Both the second one especially, the most emotionally moving, loud rock show.
It was Aragon.
That was when I was in Texas. So the first show I saw was in Houston. The second one was in Austin, which Bob was living there for a while. So it was a very high, home crowd. Again, I can't stress how loud and how rock and roll it was, but weeping. 4 weedy little college boys of us with a giant PA stack in front of us, but the emotional punch of the encore was Tilted from Beaster and Explode and Make Up from File Under Easy Listening, and we're all just because it just is hitting such a pure emotional place. And I've seen him solo like that since then. Some outdoor festival in Chicago in 2000, I saw him that way. No, his integrity and craft and
humor too,
but dry as a bone.
Right.
And talk about somebody who 40 years in is still making phenomenal records.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he can get a band together of younger guys and hang with them. And I've seen him do
sitting with Dr. Dog, I think, one time, and
just hang with them and blow them away. And and then he can grab an acoustic guitar and do it.
Right.
Electric with effects like you do. Which is not in my wheelhouse at all.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely.
Yeah, I saw him do that at Metro a couple of times where it's just, wow, this is the loudest acoustic or solo show I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
and then he gets those other tones in there. Like the way he plays guitar is almost like harmonies, right? He's like that.
It's
harmonies to the voice,
but he's using, and I mean, you
would know more than me.
You'll hear it. Well, there's a lot of chord changes that
there's open chords too.
There's a lot of open chords, and it's a direct line from The Who. He was a big Townsend guy.
All connects,
absolutely.
He did a cover of Armenia City in the Sky
on Live with Sugar.
One of the best covers I've ever heard.
So
sloppy, crazy, insane, and great. I mean, it's like it just falls apart and comes back together, and it's just him screaming at the end for 2 minutes.
They just took they took an Acid song and added speed to it.
That's it.
And
we don't have to say anymore. That's it.
It's the Runaway Train. It's amazing.
Runaway Train. That's great.
So, okay, number 4.
Last one. Probably Paul Westerberg.
Okay.
Just for, again, songwriting. And when I first heard, I think one of the first fake girlfriends I ever had who I thought I loved. You know what I mean?
A crush.
I'm in love.
A crush.
And she gave me the album, Let It Be. Okay. When I heard Unsatisfied, I had to play. I probably played that song 50 times in a row. And my parents probably were like, "What the hell's wrong with what's wrong with the kid?
I think he's
having a breakdown." Marge, he could be unsatisfied.
Is he trying to tell us something?
I wonder what it could be. Just for the songwriting and the and the fearless, not to not be perfect. You know, like that's something like I can be a perfectionist, like we all can.
Right.
And if I have a bad show or we have a bad show, because we do have it at Thin Cherries, because like you said, we're a little ragtag, and it can go wrong for various reasons with all 6 variables on stage. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not to take it so seriously and laugh at it. Mm-hmm. You know, have a drink or don't have a drink. You know, just look at it. Doesn't go, well, that didn't work.
Yep.
You know, like,
on to the next.
You know, the audience will understand.
Right.
You know, nobody's perfect. I've seen big bands start over songs.
Oh, sure.
You know, and laugh about it. Better than getting mad and storming off stage.
I saw Genesis make a mistake on stage.
Oh, that must have been.
One of the band, the keyboard player moved. That's impossible. The keyboard player moved to a different part, and the band was still in one other spot. I'm like, oh my god! And they recovered.
It happens.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Even if it's maybe it doesn't happen if a backing track and you're not actually playing.
No,
that's a whole other story.
It's girl, you know. It's
I know.
Girl, you know.
There's a podcast about that.
Yeah, about
Milli Vanilli one. It's
yeah.
Look it up.
That's amazing.
And it goes much more into
deeper into one.
It's a sad story.
Yeah,
it's very sad, tragic.
How they're
but it goes into the details you didn't know about how they were pushing into, like, it's
and exploit it a little bit.
Absolutely.
I don't know what we went off.
So that's okay.
You know what I mean? Like Paul Westerberg, for the you know. They fought all the time. I'm not saying they didn't. And then they broke up on stage here, right? Chicago, the last show.
I saw him solo at the Riv a long time ago, of course. And I was just thinking, because I just heard Knocking on Mine the other day, and I was like, wow, what a great song. What is he doing these days? Because I gotta get to the Google machine. And,
I don't know either.
And find out.
He did a bunch of solo. I wasn't as into the solo stuff, except for I like some of the movie soundtracks.
Yeah, the singles. Those two songs are amazing.
I'm a sucker for those kind of his pop sensibilities, and that he kind of poo-poos a little bit sometimes. You know, but
that's.
You know, he's a great songwriter, melody, sense, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd love to write a song as great as Unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't we?
We can't all
be
blessed to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Dolph, how about you? What's your last one?
Okay, I got a last one to do.
Yep.
I will go with Harry Nilsson, which is actually, I got onto him really late. I always liked this stuff, but I didn't realize how closely his sensibility, and that sense of humor, landed with me until I did a show. I knew it was going to be. I did a lot of theme shows when I did the live stream, right? Just keep it interesting and learn things I didn't know. And so I did a Happy Birthday Harry Nilsson show, that's up, I think, on YouTube. It's gettable. I did 26 songs, and just the process of digging into all of that. First of all, just to sing like that, it's a whole body thing, but it's so funny and so dry. And my favorite is Son of Schmilson, because it's such a mess. But oh my god,
there's such good songs on there.
Such good songs on there. So
you know the story of when they were lowering his casket into the ground. The mourners were all around, and George Harrison was there, and he started singing "You're Breaking My Heart."
Oh, perfect!
And everybody kind of joined in. It was like that's a kind of, it was like a little aghast, but they're like, "Yeah, no, this is perfect song to sing him out with."
Exactly right. My God. Yeah.
So last question. So because honestly, I could sit and chat with you guys all afternoon.
Fun. Thanks, Mark.
Let's get DoorDash to bring us a couple 6-packs, and
let's work on it. Who's in charge of this production? Where's craft services? We got nothing.
Okay, so Mark, pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
Would you rather never have to sleep or never have to eat?
Never have to eat.
Okay, why is that?
Because I've had terrible insomnia, and it destroys your life.
Yeah, okay.
I've been depressed and anxious and not slept for a couple of days. And I could see not eating as long as I could have a little water or something.
Sure.
I'll forget breakfast half the time, so I bet I could deal with that.
All right, perfect. Any number between 1 and 10 except 7?
9.
Would you rather be forced to sing every song you hear or dance to every song you hear?
Oh, sing easily.
Okay.
I mean that's... Yeah, there's reasons that we put big pieces of wood and string in front of us so that we don't have to do that sort of thing.
Sure.
I say we, I presume, but it's certainly for me. Like I was in a show choir in high school.
Okay.
I was not in it for my dancing. I was at the back singing on pitch so that everybody who could dance well would have a good reference.
Nice.
And just trying not to stomp too loudly to throw anybody off.
Excellent, excellent.
The popcorn's done.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much.
There's our craft services.
Yeah, and again, pleasure to talk to both of you.
Thanks,
and
Mark.
look forward to seeing you in the future. And
Sounds great.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Okay.